Hey guys, it's Travis with Stick Shift Nation. Today I wanted to make a quick video because this has come up a few times, but today in the Stick Shift Nation group there's a discussion about data logs. And a lot of the logs I've seen in a lot of stick cars don't have clutch slip included. And usually it's because adding an input shaft speed sensor is pretty expensive, or it's a pain in the ass, or all of the above. So I wanted to show and maybe give some advice, maybe save you a few $100s. If you have drive shaft speed already, you can calculate clutch slip in pretty much any system that I've used anyway. And if you don't have drive shaft speed already, it's much cheaper to get that information than it is to get an input shaft speed sensor. I'm not saying that this is a replacement for an input shaft speed sensor. I'm just saying that this can get you pretty close. So what I'm gonna do is kind of show how I've done it and how I learned to do it. And honestly, I'm betting that there's people out there that do it better than me, and I'm really hoping so. I just couldn't find this information on the web when I was looking for it. So I do hope that there's somebody out there that says, you know, this is a better way to do it, and I would love that. I would create a follow-up video to kind of show how to do it better. So without further ado, I'm gonna go to my computer, show you kind of how I do it, and we'll go from there. All right, so I'm at my computer. The first thing I want to do is dive into a Racepak log called Stalker Sample 1. So this is not my car, but it has a couple things going for it that I think make it good for an example. Number one, it has very clear shift points to make it a little bit easier to understand. And number two is this car actually does have an input shaft speed sensor on it, which makes it really nice for comparison. That way later I can show, does the drive shaft RPM calculator, is it more accurate or less accurate than the input shaft speed sensor? So we can see the differences between those. So what we need to do first is add some math channels. So we come up here into Edit, Channel Maintenance, then we'll skip down here into the last channel, and we'll click Easy Insert Channel. Okay, then we will hit OK. And we need to name this channel. Let's call it first gear slip percent. And then let's write our expression. So I have put the expressions down below in the description. So first gear is, in this car, I believe is a 330. So I don't have the exact gear ratios of this car, but based on the data, it looks like a 330. So I'm going to paste in the formula that's down below in the description and put 330 in where the gear ratio should go. Okay? And then let's add some smoothing. So the smoothing, this is personal preference, but let's set it to 20. It just makes the graph look a little bit cleaner. And then for the minimum result, we'll do 0. And for the maximum, we'll do 100. And then we'll hit OK. And then hit OK again. And now our new channel is up here, first gear slip percentage. So let's go ahead and turn that on. Let's make it a different color. Let's do blue. So here our graph has three different things: RPM, which is in red, our drive shaft speed in green, and then we have our blue line, which is a calculation on both of those parameters. So at the starting line, we can see up here that our first gear clutch slip is 99.93%, or basically open. So that makes sense. There should be really nothing happening with the clutch there until the driver actually dumps the clutch. So as we move forward through the run, you can see that first gear clutch slip number go down. And really what we want to figure out is where the clutch locks up in this run. So every car and every sensor and everything is going to be different. Your log's going to be different than this log. It's something that you're just going to have to get used to. But for very rough comparison's sake, let's say that anything under 1%, let's call that lockup. So here at 1.020 seconds into the run, we can see that our clutch slip was 0.90%, or pretty much locked up. Again, it's not going to be perfect. You're going to have to do some learning with that. And you can use this for tuning purposes. So if you want your clutch to slip a little bit longer, or you want it to lock up a little bit sooner, this is what you can use to figure that out. So just with a very quick math channel, we're able to calculate clutch slip. It's really a beautiful thing. Let's go ahead and add second gear. So the downside to doing it this way is every single gear has to have a separate math channel. So this is a 4-speed car. It's going to have 4 math channels. Somebody much smarter than me probably has figured out how to get it into one math channel. Please let me know. I would love to use it, but for now, this is how I do it. So let's go into Edit, Channel Maintenance. Then let's go down to our first gear slip percentage. Hit Easy Copy Channel. Go down to first gear slip percentage, and this one is going to be second gear slip percentage, and then hit OK. And then we need to come in here and Easy Edit Channel. And the only thing that we need to change here is our gear ratio. So our gear ratio for this car, I believe, is a 2.0 for second gear, or we could leave it at 2. Okay, so we will hit OK, and then hit OK. And now let's add second gear slip to our graph. All right, so we shift into second right about here where we have our peak, and then let's go through the run and we will watch our second gear slip. So right about, so it never really gets below 1%. And if we look down here at this line, it remains pretty flat. So I would argue that lockup has already happened right around maybe 2%, maybe even a little bit less than that. So let's call it 1.82% is lockup. That happens right at 2 seconds in the run. So you would want to do the math of 2 seconds minus where your shift happened, which is about right here. So let's get our handy dandy calculator, and let's do 2 seconds minus 1.467. So it took about half a second for the clutch to lock up in second gear. Now let's do the same thing for third gear. So let's do channel maintenance, second gear slip. Let's easy copy channel, second gear slip. Let's call it third gear slip percentage. Hit OK. Then we'll hit easy edit channel. And then again, we're going to change our gear ratio. The third gear ratio in this car is, I believe, a 1.4. So I'll change it to 1.4. And then hit OK. And hit OK again. And then I'll add third gear slip to my graph. So we need to come to where third gear happened, which is right here at this peak. And let's go through the run and let's watch our third gear slip. So we can see it go down. It's at 5%. And it goes all the way to a negative number. Again, you will see these anomalies in your data. Let's just say that anything under 1% is full lockup. So that happens at about 3.222 seconds into the run. And then let's move to where the shift happened, which is roughly 2.803. So again, we'll get our handy dandy calculator and do 3.222 minus 2.803. So it took roughly 0.4 of a second for the clutch to lock up in that gear. And then last but not least, let's do high gear. So we'll do edit, channel maintenance. We will go to third gear slip, easy copy channel, third gear slip, and we'll call this fourth gear slip percentage, and then hit OK. And then we'll edit this channel. So this, for fourth gear, it's going to be a little bit different because the ratio, or the last gear, is 1. Okay, so it's up to you, but I prefer to put a little bit easier formula in here, which again is down in the description. So you can paste it and then hit OK, and then hit OK, and then let's go ahead and add fourth gear. All right, so fourth gear happens right here at this peak, and lockup happens very quickly. So I'm interested to see the math on this, but it looks like it happens pretty quick. Okay, so fourth gear lockup looks like it happens 5.722 seconds into the run. And then the shift happened roughly 5.281 seconds into the run. Okay, so we would need to, again, 5.722 minus 5.281. And it took about, again, a little over 0.4 of a second to lock up in high gear. So this is information that you can use, go back and tune your clutch accordingly. Super, super handy. The next thing that I want to do is close out of this. Actually, let's minimize this for now. Now what I want to do is I want to dive into a MegaSquirt log. Thanks to Richard Guido, he sent me a log where he ran 877 at 164. So let's go ahead and open this log. And I'm doing this a little bit differently than the Racepak. This I'm going to use 4 different graphs. So the top graph for first gear, second gear, third gear, and fourth gear. I just think it'll make it a little bit cleaner. So every graph has the same data in it. It has RPM in red and drive shaft RPM in green. So what I need to do first is I'm going to zoom out and find our run, which is about right here where the RPM is high, and I'm zooming in. Okay, so we need to add some math channels just like we did in Racepak. So we'll go up to calculated fields, custom fields, and we will add a custom field. So for this one, let's do clutch slip 1. And then our formula, again, I have them pasted down below in the description, but it's going to be very similar to our Racepak formula. Now the syntax for MegaLog Viewer is a little bit different, so do keep that in mind if you're trying to write these from scratch. That looks right. So Rich's first gear is a 270 in his transmission. So let's go ahead and click OK. And then it asks us to map our fields. So shaft RPM is shaft RPM and RPM is RPM. Very easy. Let's hit OK. And then it says this must be reloaded to take effect. Let's click yes. All right, so we're going to have to zoom out and find our run again. So let's zoom back in. All right, so in graph 1, let's go ahead and add our new calculated field. So we'll hit the drop down, we'll go to clutch slip 1, and it added our clutch slip. Okay, so this only works in first gear. So if we look at the run, we can see that here's the starting line, here's first gear. So we can see at the starting line, our clutch slip up here in the top right corner is 84% right now. So let's keep moving through the log, and right now it's still at 99%, and then it starts to drop. So at about, well, we're at 5% now, so we're almost at lockup. We're at 0.7 now, we're at 0.2 here. So again, the data can jump around quite a bit. Let's keep looking, 0.2, 0.7. All right, so lockup happens roughly around here. Let's say at about 0.793% clutch slip. Okay, so I'm going to write this number down. So our time is 178.557 seconds. 178.557 seconds. And the run started, let's see when clutch slip starts to go down. So it looks like it started right about here. So 177.061. So let's get our handy dandy calculator out. Some of you can probably do math in your head. I cannot. 178.557 minus 177.061. That's 1.496 seconds. So you could argue here that you could do the math a little bit differently, like the run starts in a different spot. But according to this, that's kind of what we're looking at. So let's go ahead and let's do gear 2. So let's add another calculated field. We'll add a custom field. And this one we will do clutch slip 2. And our formula will be very, very similar. So we will copy that. And instead of 270, his second gear is, I believe, 178. We'll hit OK. Our mapping looks good. We'll hit OK. And then the log refreshed again. So let's go to gear 2. We'll zoom in, and then for our graph 2, we will add clutch slip 2. All right, so let's look at second gear. So in second gear, starts around here and starts at about 30% clutch slip, and then it drops pretty harshly during that dip. So really we're looking at about 2% clutch slip. Here's 0.9. So really we're very, very close here. We can probably call this good. So let's go back to 0.9. That happens at about 176.871 seconds. And our peak was at about 175.862 seconds. So again, we'll do the math. 176.871 minus 175.862, which is about 1 second to lock up in that gear. So let's go ahead and add another calculated field for gear 3 and gear 4. So we'll add a custom field, clutch slip 3. We will copy our formula. And his third gear is 1.3. And let's go ahead and add fourth gear so we don't have to zoom in again. Custom field, add custom field, clutch slip 4. We'll paste our formula, and that's a 1. All right, now we have all 4 channels in. Let's go ahead and find our run. Let's zoom in, and let's add clutch slip 3. Whoops, this is clutch slip 4, and this one is clutch slip 3. All right, so looking at this graph, graph 3, after he shifts into third, we can see that clutch slip starts around 6% and moves to and we'll keep going until we can there 0.934. Okay, so that's about the time that it took for that gear to lock up, and then we can do the same thing again for high gear. I think you get the idea, but let's go ahead and do it. So here's fourth gear, and we can see that clutch slip over here is 2, 3, 4, 3, still moving. It never really has fallen below 1%. There we go. Roughly about here it falls below 1%. So I'd really need to see more logs from Rich's car to actually figure out where lockup happens. And that's the same thing for every single car, is the calculation is not perfect, but it really does get you in the ballpark. So again, if this helps you, great. So the final thing I want to do is show the difference in accuracy between the input shaft speed sensor and the drive shaft speed sensor. So we're going to go back to this Racepak log that we had earlier. So like I said earlier, this stalker has an input shaft speed sensor. To utilize that, I want to turn off and hide all of our math channels except for 2. So again, we're back to engine RPM and drive shaft RPM. This little clutch RPM data, if we click on this, let's change it to some type of blue. That's a little bit easier to see. So now we can see clutch RPM data in blue. So right away, this should look pretty handy. I mean, visually, you can tell when lockup happens very quickly with a very quick glance. It's when the blue line meets the red line. That's pretty cool. One thing you will notice is clutch RPM always drags behind engine RPM just a little bit. So for example, right now clutch RPM is at 6,475. Engine RPM is 6,483. So they're not exact. So what I want to do is create a percentage. That way we have a direct comparison to our percentages that we created with our drive shaft RPM. So again, to do that, we need to go into Edit, Channel Maintenance, Easy Insert Channel, then click OK. This one we're going to call clutch slip percent. Okay, in our expression, we're going to do it manually first. So let's do 100 minus, then we need clutch RPM, then we need to divide that by engine RPM, then we need to multiply that by 100. We need to wrap part of this in parentheses just like this. Okay, then we will hit OK, and then we'll hit OK again. All right, so now our new channel is here. So we'll click on clutch slip percentage. Now, because this is based off the clutch RPM input shaft speed sensor, we don't need to do it by gear. It will automatically do it by gear. So as we can see in first gear, our clutch slip locks up somewhere around here. So 1.055 seconds. Our clutch slip is about 1.03%. Let's compare that to our drive shaft speed sensor percentage, which is the one right above it. So we can see that based on input shaft speed, it's quite a bit different than the drive shaft speed calculation. So it's not always the exact difference between the two. It can vary quite a bit. It's just how the math works out. So as you can see, at any given point, there might be a slight variance. Again, you can argue either way that the input shaft speed sensor is more accurate. That's fair. I accept that. But it does look like the calculation from drive shaft speed will get you most of the way there. So let's look at second gear. So second gear, for example, right here we have 7.65% clutch slip. Well, our calculation from drive shaft speed tells us that our clutch slip is 9.89%. So there's a little variance there. Same thing with third gear. So we can look and see that clutch slip is 6.85%, but it's 6.54% here. So pretty close, honestly. And then we move into fourth gear, and right here clutch slip is 7.08%, as far as the input shaft speed is concerned, and 8.79% when using the drive shaft speeds calculation. So they are a little bit different. There is a variance there, but it's close enough, in my opinion, to save yourself thousands of dollars if it's something you don't really want to put in your transmission or change bell housings or whatever the case may be. I think it's close enough. So that's pretty much it. I wanted to make the video as quick as I could. I know it still ended up pretty long, but I didn't want to leave out anything too important, but I didn't want to drag on. So there are going to be people out there that do things differently than I do. They're going to calculate things differently. They're going to calculate lockup time much differently than I do. That's okay. I encourage all of that type of feedback because my goal is just to educate everybody, including myself. So I just want to share the things that I use, and hopefully in return, I get some more information on how to do things better. So thanks guys for watching. If you want to support the channel, go to stickracing.com. Hoodies, shirts, stickers, hats, all that stuff helps me continue the channel and spread information like this. And we have some bigger things planned, including the Clutch Burners podcast. So thank you, everybody. Let me know if you have any questions. Of course, you can always go to the Stick Shift Nation Facebook group and ask questions there. There's a ton of brighter minds than me, so I look forward to seeing you guys there.